Minglawa, welcome to MITV special program Perspectives. This time, we have invited special guest of speaker Wu Ejian, who is Councillor of Myanmar Press Council and also Chairman of E-Commerce Association of Myanmar and Deputy Chairman of Myanmar Digital Economy Association of UMFCCI. Wu Ejian has worked in UK and Singapore as professional capacity in banking and finance for more than 15 years. Minglawa sir, thank you for joining our special talk show. For this topic, getting facts straight about Myanmar economic growth, how we actually find out about economic growth in Myanmar?
Yeah, that's the topic that I've been wanting to talk about for so long because I myself is an economist, right? And because people are having the Myanmar economic growth decided based on gut feelings, right? Based on Facebook, what Facebook people say on the Facebook, and plus what some celebrities and that people say, right? When they can actually find out about the economic growth themselves, getting facts straight from the established institutions. Yeah. So first of all, what is the meaning of economic growth itself? Right. Economic growth is measured globally by GDP per capita. Yeah. GDP is the whole output of a country, measured in dollar terms. And plus GDP per capita, I mean that GDP total divided by the number of people living in the country, i.e. the population, then you got the GDP per capita. So that's how you measure the economic growth, right? So the first you got to get that right, the measurement variable, which is the GDP per capita. Yeah, so as I mentioned in the first episode of this perspective series, right, we always refer to the Google search.
Yes.
Right, so here the same thing, right? We will go for the Google search, right? And we type in the search box, Myanmar economic growth comparison chart. Then you have come out, the first thing that come out is data from the World Bank. World Bank is something that you can always refer to. Once you click that, you can have the GDP growth rate of Myanmar. First of all, let's look at the growth rate first, right? And then in the growth rate, then you have the series from 1960. 1960, we are not interested, so we reduce the dates from 2011 until 2021, the latest statistics. So here you can see the GDP growth of Myanmar. Right, then you can see it's always hanging between 10 and 5%. Right, where you also see that the last year they dropped negative 18% because of our change of government or the instability. And plus, how do we know that we are doing good? Well, we always add in other countries. We compare. Right, obviously we have to compare with our immediate neighbors rather than looking very far in all these developed countries. Right, immediate neighbors here, I've added Thailand. Then after that, I'll add the Bangladesh. Right, then after that, I'll add the Cambodia. And probably I have added the Laos as well. Right, then you can see that when you look at the economic growth of these neighboring countries, we are always hanging around there. Yeah, so actually our growth itself is not that stellar. Right, some of the, around the 2015-16, we have the better growth rates. Yeah, 2013-14, what I'm trying to say is better growth rate than the neighbors, but the rest is the same. Then the measurement of GDP itself, we go for the GDP per capita. That is the real thing. Yeah, in US dollar terms, we click that, GDP per capita, we compare the same countries again. Right, here you see Thailand is very far ahead of us. Right, if you look at GDP, then we reduce the number of years to 2011 to 2021. Right, if you look at Thailand, it's far ahead of Myanmar. In fact, if you look at the GDP of Thailand, which is about $7,200, and versus the current GDP of Myanmar, which is 1,000. In layman terms, what it means is Thailand is about 7 times richer than average person in Thailand is about 7 times richer than average person in Myanmar. Then we remove Thailand very far. It's very far ahead. But even if we look at the rest of the population, right, you will realize that Myanmar has become the lowest in terms of the GDP per capita if you compare the neighbors. Even if you compare to the Cambodia, Bangladesh is having a very good GDP growth. per capita from 2015 until 2020. Myanmar is lagged behind so far from Bangladesh compared to Bangladesh. And in Cambodia, right, Cambodia was the poorest in ASEAN all the way, historically. And Myanmar has become the poorest in ASEAN from 2016 onwards, where Myanmar GDP per capita falls below Cambodia. Right? You don't have to believe me, you just have to believe the World Bank statistics. Right? That's how we become the poorest in ASEAN. Yeah, these are the fact statistics from the World Bank, not from me. Yeah, so that's how we look at our economic growth, the economic statistics. And the other one is, it's a compilation of the economics data. You can also, if you Google search it, you can also have another website called Trading Economics. Trading Economics. Yeah, that's where you can also have all the charts that I show you as well. Just now the charts that I mentioned is from the World Bank.
So what type of comparisons we should make?
Yeah, just now as I say in the chart, right, the first comparison that we should make is a chronological comparison, time pace. Right, we got to be growing, how fast we are growing on average. Yeah, so we have to be consistent with our growth. For example, China for the past 20 years or so, they're growing at average rate of around 10%. So it's a phenomenal growth rate. Right, we have to grow at that rate to catch up with the rest of the world. That's the baseline. Right, the other one is, we cannot be just happy with our growth rate itself. The first time I saw the chart, GDP growth rate, the chart seems to be quite good. But when you compare with our neighbors, right, our growth rate is only better than our neighbors around the 2013-14 period. The rest is we are more or less at par with our neighbors. Then you're going to say, hey, we are at par with our neighbors. That's not so bad. But that's bad because our neighbors are already richer than us right now. So in order to catch up with them, we cannot be at par with them. We have to perform better than them. That's why. Two comparisons. One is a chronological. The other one is comparing with other countries.
So how do we fact check these data?
How do we fare, actually? How do we fare is, we fare actually just now as the charts say, right? In terms of growth rate, we are okay. Yeah, we are okay. We are comparable to our neighbors, but that's not enough. Because by just being the same with our neighbors in terms of growth rate, we can never reach to their standards. Just as you say in the chart, Thailand GDP per capita is about $7,000 plus. Myanmar is $1,000 plus. On average Thai is 7 times richer than average Burmese. Right? So in order to reach out with them, we're gonna be growing at the same rate. We got to grow like 2 or 3 times higher than them. Only then we will be able to catch up with them. That's the bottom line. So there is a growth rate. And in terms of the GDP per capita, as I mentioned just now, we have fallen below the poorest country in ASEAN, which is Cambodia, in 2016. So now from 2016 onwards until right now, we are the poorest country in ASEAN economically. And that's fact. Yeah, so that's why we have to try a lot harder economically to succeed and not to get looked down by everyone in the rest of the world. Yeah, so in terms of the other data besides GDP and all that, you can look at the inflation, right? Inflation figures. Right? We did face a little bit high inflation in the past 2 months or so, but it's quite stabilized right now. Yeah, and the other one that in my first program I mentioned about our World in Data page, we can also look at our World in Data page by Google, to look at some of the economic activities. Yeah, and the other measure of the economic growth is also WHO measure the healthcare index. Right, in Myanmar is like 190 or 189, one of the worst healthcare country in that index. So we got to work hard, a lot harder in a lot of aspects to catch up with the rest of the world.
So why is this statistic so important?
Yeah, it is because GDP per capita is the only internationally recognized measure economic performance so far that all the countries can compare with one another. Yeah, so and it is, all the economists admit that this is a single best indicator of economic performance of a country. So that's why we still have to use that. People can say whatever other things, they have to consider other things, but the thing is, every country, every leader, every government, they are trying to achieve what? They're trying to get higher, they're going to increase GDP per capita of their nation. Full stop.
So, how do we increase the economic growth?
Well, increasing the economic growth has been mentioned since Adam Smith's time. Adam Smith is a father economist, a father economics, right? So there are 4 factors. Very simple: land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. Land. In order to create economic activity, you need space. Land doesn't necessarily refer to the physical land. You need space. For example, Singapore has very small land. So what do? They keep on building very high rise. Why? Because in order to create what? Space. So in order to in order to improve economic activities, you need space. Myanmar has loads of land. And the other one is a labor. Labor, you're talking about quantity as well as quality of labor. Yeah, you cannot have just too many people. You need to have a quality workforce, hard-working workforce. The workforce that is not going for strike all the time, right? China workforce, they work really hard. Yeah, they live in close to similar to quarters as in jail, right? So, but they work like 12 hours non-stop. They are very hardworking and motivating workers. So when you need that, when you have that, you increase your economic growth. The third one is a capital, right? You need money to build factories and to do business and to start SMEs and all these things. That money, where does it come from? Obviously, local investment. Myanmar investment also coming from FDI. That's why we open to lots of FDIs in the past 10 years or so, right? That's where we need the capital because we are not the rich. We're poor. Yeah, so we need capital. That's why we open up. That's how we get capital. And plus, having the stock exchanges and all these things, having a proper banking system where you can get the borrowings and borrowing and lendings going. Yeah, that also increases the availability of capital. That will in turn increase the economic growth. The last one, entrepreneurship. That's why the government have to support the businesses. Entrepreneurship means people, there's somebody taking the risk to do the business. Somebody taking the risk to open a factory, to open a restaurant, to open an online shop. So that is they got to be somebody. Everybody cannot be employee, right? Of course, being employee is a lot lesser risk. Right? If every businessman who do the business is going to be rich, nobody in the world will be an employee. Right? Everybody will start doing business and opening up shops. No, doing business, the failure rate is so high. That's why if you look at the ratio of number of employees versus number of entrepreneurs, it's quite a lot. Right? The number of employees is a lot, entrepreneurs is little. But having more entrepreneurs means more economic growth. So repeating that, there are 4 factors: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. This thing increases 4 things, you will generate economic growth.
So, it's also very interesting. And so, what rate of growth would be acceptable for Myanmar?
Well, it's a catch-up game that we have to play, right? I have done up a chart for the growth sensitivity, right, saying that here, if you look at the current GDP of Thailand is 7,000, current GDP of Myanmar is 1,000, right? So if the Thailand grow at 4%, next 10 years later, Thailand GDP will be 10,000. Even if Myanmar grow twice the rate of Thailand at 8%, next 10 years, Myanmar GDP still will be only 2005, right? So that's why our GDP growth rate is anything less than or around 10 is not going to be sufficient for us to catch up with any of our neighbors at all. Right? So we get to have a super high economic growth to make the whole country rich again.
So, it's very, very challenging to reach a 10%, super high, yeah? And as you have mentioned, for the economic growth, we have to gather land, labor, and also capital and entrepreneurship. And also we have to work very hard, super hard, to get super high performance for a 10% of GDP. So it's very insightful knowledge for our audience. Thank you for your time, and we really appreciate for your kind presence for our talk show Perspectives.
Thank you.
You have been watching MITV's special show Perspectives. Thanks for joining us.